What the fuck, Emily?
Exciting fucking little episode today. We have my good friend here, Mr. Brian Sparhawk, legendary guitar player from a swath of bands in the P.N.W.
Yeah.
Brian, I appreciate you coming down today.
Yeah.
Because
thanks for having me. This is nice.
I can't believe that you ditched everybody else out. You were telling us beforehand that you tell everybody I have other plans. I have somebody more important to get to right now.
I just don't like to talk about myself, so.
What have you been up to,
That's
anyways?
it.
What is your current endeavor?
My current endeavor is we're getting ready to make a Power Castle record.
Power Castle. So I don't know anything about Power Castle.
You don't know Power Castle? Power Castle is myself, Brad Balsley from C Average.
Yeah.
And Tim. What's Tim's last name? Dietrich. Tim Dietrich.
It's them drugs again.
A bunch of stuff. What's Tim been in? He's been in all kinds of stuff. He was in. He's still in. See, I draw a blank. I can't even remember the name of the bands. That one cool metal band from Olympia.
Oh God, which one?
The one with the female singer. They're really good.
Oh no, I'm fucking drawing a blank.
You got to edit this out.
Yeah, because we get some fucking shade for not remembering our locals here.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. So,
so I'll pull that out, Brian.
Yeah.
So you actually, I got to reverse this a little bit. You go back even further than like I am mentally. I've heard stories about Mr. Sparhawk here. They go way back in the prime of the fucking 90s of music.
80s.
Well, 80s, yeah, but like the 90s arguably probably the best time in the P.N.W. for music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you've never even told me the story. How did you even get into playing music, like live music with people? Like was it like a garage band thing or what was it?
No, it started in high school.
Okay.
I was like a total like pot dealing nerd.
Hell yeah.
No friends whatsoever. And then I met this friend of mine, Chris McCrumman, and we started playing together. And then we got this Japanese foreign exchange student came in to Capitol when I went to Capitol. This would be 1982, I think it is.
Don't date yourself.
I don't care. I'm old. And we did "Start Me Up" by the Stones at a talent show kind of thing. And because he was a foreign exchange student, he was super popular. And it was really bad, but that whole thing of like we played the song and it was at a big thing, out probably like 600 students, and they all went crazy afterwards. And I was just like, "Oh, this is the coolest thing. This is better than pot."
You're like, I'm so excited right now.
So excited. It's way better than weed. So I just kind of got hooked, and then just kept playing and playing and playing. Yeah.
So that was your first band, or that was like they just kind of?
The first band was Chris, the drummer. He and I would we would fumble through trying to get through like half an Aussie song. And then we met these kids from Tumwater, Frank and Eddie Seeberger. And Frank Seeberger was like a year younger. He's like 16, and he's a guitar prodigy. He could play Eruption all the way through. I mean, he was just like a prodigy.
That's a fucking hard song.
And so him and his brother, we just kind of formed this band, Fallout, and we'd play covers. And he just taught me so much. I grew leaps and bounds on guitar. Like in 6 months, I could, we were playing shows and I could play all kinds of stuff, just by being so intimidated by being with this guy that could play so well.
You're like, I got to really work on my chops here. Holy shit.
He would show me what to play, so that helped a lot. So yeah, that's what got me addicted.
And you started, and then you were in a couple different bands, right? And then you were in Fitz.
Yeah, well, what happened then was, after doing that for a while, then the guitar player and bass player kind of went on and did their thing. And then I kind of joined up and did this project with Eric Pugh, who then we started Death Squad. And it kind of like, we had this band, we played like one show in this band called Grinder. And we opened for the Melvins at
God, that doesn't still exist.
Whoa. Yeah, at Gesco. We opened for the Melvins, and I want to say that was 1986. There's a flyer you can see of us, and that was prior to Death Squad. And then I joined Death Squad with Jerry Ziegler, Tom Kaiser, and Eric and I. We made like 3 records. And Eric and Jerry started Death Squad, and then I got recruited and came in and played with them. And then Tom Kaiser, I don't know if you remember Tom Kaiser.
Does ring a bell.
Yeah, he did a couple other things. He owned that Vortex. Remember Vortex downtown?
Oh, yeah.
He owned that store. I think it was Vortex's store. And might have not been Vortex. Might have been
no,
something else.
Because it reminds me of the guitar pick.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the guitar pick.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was Vortex.
So we got him because he just had a PA, just like so many bands you hear of. The guy had a PA, so he's a singer. He had a PA. He came in and brought his PA in, and we said, no, you're not the singer. But he wouldn't leave, so.
You're like,
I'm not
first
joking,
of all,
like,
if
literally.
fucking lead singers had to fucking carry around PAs now, we would never get anything done. We would never get anything done. Jesus
So
Christ.
yeah, so that was like that's how Death Squad came about. We did that. And then in 1989, I sobered up because we were all way, way drunk all the time. I sobered up and kind of quit Death Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the course of about a year, I started playing with Craig from Fitz and Justin, their old bass player, writing some songs. We had this little project called Lugnut. Never played shows, but we did a demo. And then Justin got fired from Fitz, and I just kind of folded into that.
And then you were cruising around. You were with Fitz for a minute. Like you did.
Well, yeah,
So what was the time frame when you were in Fitz? What was that like? Was that 90, like early 90s then?
Yeah, I want to say it was 92, 93 is when I joined.
So so in the Seattle Coliseum with the Screaming Jay Hawkins and Nirvana, you played that gig then? You didn't play that one?
I played another show that day. I was gonna go to that show.
Oh, he's so deflated.
I am.
That was Justin, and I'm pretty sure that was his last show before he got fired.
Okay.
And that was when I was playing with Justin and Craig, but I was also playing in this band Slam Suzanne at the time, and we had a show in Eastern Washington, and we played in Eastern Washington in Pullman for like 8 people. You know, and
were you at the college?
Yeah.
Okay.
College. And then while knowing that was going on,
fuck, man,
and I wasn't there.
And then they fired the dude. And then they fired the dude.
And then I joined.
You're like, God, could this be like 48 hours ago?
Yeah.
Dude, that's so fucking. You rocked around with Fitz for a while.
Yeah.
And then, so how did the transition go? How did you end up? How long did the Fitz thing last?
I want to say, we made 2 records. Mm-hmm. Together, the one Let's Give It a Twist, and then the Swing record, and then we signed to a major label. We did multiple U.S. tours. I want to say 3 years, but I'm guessing.
And then there was going to be a fucking reunion in like, what was it? It was like 17, 18, somewhere in there. There was going to do a Fitz reunion.
We did a reunion. Craig and Mikey and I did a reunion in 2010 or something like that. And
then more recently, though, in like 17, right?
No, they would get together. Jerry and Ryan and Mike would get together and play shows on the regular. You know, because Jerry stepped in as the drummer when Craig, on the reunion when Craig stopped doing it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But then it was just depression. It wasn't even the full Fitz of Depression, right? It was just depression. It's just depression. And then Mike he passes away.
And then Mike passes away. Yeah.
So that was the end of that road.
Yeah.
And then you go, gosh, where are we at in Mr. Sparhawk's musical timeline?
When Fitz broke up, it was a weird time, you know, because we signed a publishing deal, we signed to a major label, to Mercury, and then there was all that stuff that happened with Mike and him going to rehab and then coming in and out of rehab, and then we got dropped from Mercury, and Craig and I both quit on the same day. We were it just was too crazy, and things were obviously not going in the right direction. So.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like that same week, I called up my friend, Gus Brandt, who was the Foo Fighters tour manager. I think he still is. I think he's Blink-182's tour manager now. I called him up and said, hey, I want to go on there. Because I had gone on the road as a tech with Seaweed and Candlebox, and being the tech for Seaweed for like 2.5 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Didn't know that one.
Yeah. So then I called up Gus and I said, can you get me a job? And going on the road, and then he called me back and literally was like, okay, tomorrow morning, be at the airport.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
You know that one.
I've got those calls, dude.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, so you can be on a plane in fucking 2 hours, right? And I'm like,
exactly.
I guess so.
I guess so. So then I got a job working as a guitar tech for L7.
Yep.
And went out with them for, I want to say a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. Again, that thing of like a bunch of tours.
It was a fucking blur there.
I can remember. It helps me to date myself because I remember we went to Europe in 1997. That much I do know.
Okay.
So
well, Colt here is a fucking L7 super fan.
I'm not a super fan.
So we were chatting about bands and stuff like that, and he just in talk we talked about L7. I go, I fucking know a guy that I think teched and played with them. We were just.
I didn't play with him, but I teched with him.
You teched, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and we were just in discussion and. He was like, "Are you fucking for real?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Brian, dude. He's got all kinds of fucking stories. You know what I mean?" And that's how was.
You're well aware because you've toured Tech is like it is the best job on the planet.
Really, it is.
It really is. You get paid to go out and hang out with bands that you love.
By the way, when do I get?
That's
a fucking contract. I mean,
you got paid.
It was.
Yeah,
you said don't cash this yet. Hold on. You said don't
There
cash
were
this.
a few of those,
Oh man, that fast forward us to the fucking Hellbelly. That was a lot of fun. I was like, it's not what people think. It's not what people think from the outside, but it's also it is a blast. If you can get fucking Brian to be on time for things.
Me?
Well, hold on. Now, hear me out. So we're ready. We're stage set. We've rehearsed. We've fucking line checked. And then where's Brian? We gotta fucking go on. And fucking Brian's on 60 yards away on the phone. So we started dubbing that.
That's true.
We started dubbing that, calling in airstrikes. So we started calling that. So it was like me and shout out to Bogny, by the way. Shout out to we mentioned him so much on here, and I should probably
get him on.
I'm going to talk to him. Talk to him about it. But
you can talk drums with Ryan.
Oh fuck, dude, that guy, dude. Drums, I texted him the other day looking for a classic Ludwig part, man. He's like, I got what you need. I was like, I fucking knew you would. I knew you would.
Drums,
He's like, what don't you need? But he's like, oh, there's Brian again calling in airstrike. So every time we would need him for anything, he was on the phone, walking, pacing. Didn't matter the venue, didn't matter where we were, side of a freeway in the middle of the fucking desert. Like, I'm like, Brian, like, God, we have this, or you wanted coffee, or you wanted this. He makes these demands and then disappears. Like
I'm in rehab. You notice I haven't looked at my phone once. Since we sat down.
You're in rehab. That's a lot better than cruising down the fucking freeway at 80 miles an hour, looking at your phone while you're driving the fucking bus, dude. I gave you bullshit.
I drove better than all of you.
Are you out of your damn mind?
No, you're good. You're a close second. But you can't let Tom drive. Eric either.
No.
And Brian never even tried.
Wait. Are we going under the impression that he can drive?
Me?
That you can drive.
I can drive.
He was okay.
Wrong.
He was all right.
Wrong.
I got these guys.
You are a terrifying driver.
Oh,
if
dude,
someone drives,
you fucking
someone
scared the
drives
shit
worse
out of
than
me.
you, I would not get in that car.
This is crap
Thank
because
you.
I got.
Thank you. This is very validating.
I got these guys 2 gigs on time safely. With time to spare and the gear and pack the fucking RV and pack the fucking trailer day in and day out. Not even close.
We were totally amped up for the show. Let's just put it that
way.
Yeah.
Just get off.
Your adrenaline was pumping, and that was the whole
It's like
reason.
you had gone over a bunch of speed bumps on the way there. And so when we got there, so we let him. We stopped there till everybody wants to pee and stuff like that, because
I now
the guys.
see why Randy wanted to bring me on this podcast.
The gas is that's not why. I didn't think you were gonna assault my driving. We pull over to go pee because the guys in the back. Oh, I guess so. It's tit for tat. That's what's up. Okay,
well,
fine.
Yes, of course.
The guys in the back are drinking 14 cases of beer in the back. We're trying, and they're hooting and hollering back there, and they go, "Oh, we gotta pee." So I pull over. Brian's like, "I'll drive."
Yeah.
I'll drive. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm exhausted. I just drove from where the fuck we were at in northern Idaho, all the way to halfway through Nevada. I'm like, I'll let Brian drive. This is just 30 minutes. It's fine. It was like 3 or 4 in the bunks. I'm like, what the fuck is that guy doing up there? And I look up and he's doing this, and there's semis going by this way. 2 lanes, right? Semis going by this way.
No, I wasn't.
And he's like, looking. I'm like,
he's exaggerating.
And no. Boggy's got a video of this shit. I fucking promise you that. This will come to light. I promise you that.
Alright, clip it right now.
This will come to light. No, this will
dissolve into fisticuffs here in about.
Yeah, someone's getting a microphone stand busted over their head. I don't know who. Don't know who.
Ronnie Red.
Did Ronnie just walk in?
Just no shit.
All right.
No, it's fun. It was a lot of fun, and
it's
actually it's always cool because I got lucky enough to go out with guys that were professionals in it. You know what I mean? So it's not. That's when I say it's not like you think. If we were like 20-year-old kids, you know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, I'm the fucking adult here, apparently. But it was like these guys. You guys have all been out and done things and played gazillions of shows, and it's like, man, it was like the best disorganized organization, if that's a good way to fucking.
No, it is.
But
I know for myself, like with Fitz, we toured and we were really good at getting to the shows on time. We were good at playing good shows. We were getting better at like managing ourselves and making stuff happen and do all of that stuff, because all we did was just get in the van and drive, go to the next place, to the next place, the next place. But when I went out with it actually started when we went out with Fitz, toured and opened for Into Another and Seaweed, and that was when I met Gus Brandt. And then going on tour with Seaweed, all of a sudden it was a new level. It's like these people know what they're doing. They're professionals. We were just kids and fuck-ups. You know what I mean? Like who got lucky enough to get in a van and drive around, right? As opposed to meeting people from organizations that were like, just like you see a business, you go buy your coffee at a business where they know what they're doing.
You're making coffee in the back of a van.
We don't know what we're doing. We had no idea what we're doing. So it was like, so working with people that really know what they're doing, like going out with L7 again, that they were what I learned from them was they were 100% in charge of what they were doing. You know what I mean? They had a manager, they had a business manager, but they were like, you didn't answer to anybody but them. You know what I mean? They were the ones in charge, which was really cool because a lot of the other bands, like I'm sure you know too, there's a manager and the bands are out partying and doing their thing. And
dude.
Not even really aware.
There's detachment.
Off,
there's so much detachment to the point that these artists are getting ripped off for real.
Totally,
like, and you're like, so. Well, we have like I've seen the fucking schedules, man. We've got bus call at 1 a.m. We're gonna be the next gig at fucking 7. 1,200 miles away or whatever the hell it is, and you're just like, it's so which structure's good, but like these guys don't know. They're playing FaceTime with the fucking fans and stuff, and that's all cool. When the guy in the back, he's just, like it's different. It's a weird world, which is I think another cool thing about the Pacific Northwest music scene. I don't know that a lot of that fucking bullshit was allowed to go on. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of the bands from up here were like everybody's so protective of their thing that I think that kind of pushed out to where they're like no, we'll fucking manage it, thanks.
Well, yeah, that, and also I mean what we also had going for us was we were completely had nothing to do with like the misogyny that was going on in the music industry because we were from Olympia, right? And like we toured with Bikini Kill, and we were friends with all these bands that were really trying to change the way the power structure and the way that they did.
The Northwest was far ahead of that whole that movement and stuff like that.
It was just a completely different vibe. You know what I mean? Like we're like it really was that vibe of like we're just regular people, man. We're not like rock stars.
Just want to play some fucking music,
dude.
Yeah.
Rockstars labels, like we're not rock stars. We're just like people out playing music.
Don't Rockstar Me. I love that. I fucking love that's one of my favorite statements by fucking you. Ironically enough, we use it within our own organization with Mr. Eric.
Don't Rockstar Me.
I'm like, don't fucking Rockstar Me, homie. Dude, you forget who you're talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not impressed by you. I always like to say that. I'm like, listen, love you guys, but I'm not impressed by you. Okay.
Yeah, you and Willie Baker take you to an extreme. Though, not just
why you mention Willie Baker on here?
Bring it up because it's like you and Willie will never miss an opportunity to remind you that you're not a rock star.
You know why? You keep him fucking humble. You keep him fucking humble, right? You keep him humble, and guess what? We take care of you back.
Yeah.
You no one fucking kills you, stabs you. You don't get left in an alleyway somewhere, which apparently was a problem in the 90s. Okay.
Yeah.
And or wake up on somebody's random fucking couch or whatever. You know what I mean?
Man, those things happen to me all the time.
You have to fucking when you take care of the artist.
Yeah.
Okay, you make sure that you got to keep that structure and organization. Without me, you would fall apart, man.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself
I would
that,
drive
brother.
away and you'd be on the phone still, fucking. So the thing at the end of that joke was we never got to it, but we were gonna go to we were somewhere in the desert. We wanted to find a fireworks shop and get smoke bombs. And so every time he was on the phone, we wanted to fling like smoke bombs like he's calling it.
Heard about this.
So we were gonna do it. You were gonna be on. You were 100%, and that never came to fruition, unfortunately. But we were gonna just throw a smoke bomb next to him, like another airstrike, and we're gonna film it. It would have been funny, and everybody would have laughed, and then maybe cried, and you'd be like, "Fuck you guys!" But no, that was good times. And then
they were.
So you you did the L7, and then what did that morph into?
That morphed into I did that for, like I said, a couple years. Then I was totally burnt out. And then I took a step back, and I was going to go to Japan and Australia with them and New Zealand, and then I had to back out of it. I couldn't do it anymore because I got totally. We went to Europe for 3 months, and I think I slept
6 minutes.
6 minutes. 6 minutes, and lived on European coffee, and it totally fried something. And so I had to.
You're still shaking. It wasn't me. It wasn't the RV.
Shaking.
He was still
shaking. I was still shaking. And so I came home and stayed home for a little bit, and didn't do music for a couple years, and bought a house. Had a couple kids.
Family thing for a bit. Yeah.
And then I started. I got in this band Two Tumboa. Do you know about that one? Yeah, with Sherry Fraser.
Yep.
And
you had another project there too at the same time though, right? As Two Tumboa. You had or they were like maybe they were like secular. I don't know.
Well,
after that
at the same time I was writing a bunch of music, and and writing. I was playing. We we called the parting gifts, and then Soda Voce, all these, but nothing ever really came of it. I actually look back at that time as me like learning and crafting how to be a songwriter, right? And so after doing that, and then doing the two-ton boa thing, and then I don't know, there was a period of years where I did nothing but run a business, raise kids,
Yeah, you were doing like a fucking construction thing like crazy, man.
Yeah, and then one day Jimmy Davies, Jimmy from the Dirty Birds, he called me up one day, and which is a weird thing because when I was on the road with Fitz, he was living with my ex-wife and my oldest daughter. Well, the Fitz thing was going on, and so there was always this weird tension between us.
Well,
yeah, and so he just called me up one day. He's like, "We should start a band." I'm like, "Okay."
Just dead call you, just out of nowhere.
Called me. Let's go sit and have coffee and talk about it. And so we did, and we started a band, and he and I got together, and it was great because we sat down the first day and wrote like 4 or 5 of the songs that are on that record, and then we just made a record, a Resident Kings record.
Yeah,
that came out. We played a bunch of shows, and then. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Let's throw them on the bus.
But
dude.
the way Hellbelly happened was, in all honesty, I had those songs too that I was working on. They were like more metal songs, hard rock. And it really came about because Ryan and I would be the only ones that would show up to practice. There'd be no Jimmy Davies, no Mike Esparza, no Tim Brown. They would just and it happened. People would have busy lives. I don't blame anybody. It was just, and so there'd just be Ryan and I sitting in the room. I'd be like, all right, I got these other songs.
You don't even have, were you dabbling in the bass at all, or were you just doing guitar? Because
guitar.
Because where's the rest of the rhythm section?
Right, exactly. So no, but we worked on some songs that, I had written and then worked on some more. And then Tom Burns came over, played a little bit, then didn't do it. And then he came back. And then when he came back, we started getting them together. And I was singing, which is like a sight to behold. And
I know, I always tell you, dude, get that microphone. And you're like, get that fucking microphone off the stage, Randy.
Exactly. And so one day we were in there at Ryan's basement rocking out, and then Eric Brading just showed up. Just out of the blue. He's just like showed up.
I'm in the fucking band now.
And I kind of knew Eric, not really, but a little bit from the back in the day, and he just showed up and he said, yeah, I want to try out. And I said, okay. And I handed him a sheet. I'm like, okay, well, here's a lyric, and this is, and kind of showed him, and he sang like one verse of one song, and I was like, okay,
that's it. That's it. I've always
finally
wondered,
somebody that can sing.
I always wondered how that fucking, because it was rather abrupt when Eric tells it. It was rather abrupt, and he could never really pin down exactly how that fucking interaction went down. I'm like, you just fucking showed up.
He just showed up.
How the fuck you know that they were even jamming out?
He was with those guys. I didn't know till later that what was the band from the 90s they had, the funk.
Yeah. Hold on. Now Resident Kings keeps popping in my head, but that's not the fucking right thing.
I know this is what getting old looks like.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I know it's right on the tip of my head.
I just said it the other day when I was thinking about Eric. I was like, I think about Eric a lot. But
I didn't know that they were the what?
I think about Eric a lot.
You're a little gay for him, honestly.
A little bit.
Really?
Well, and the
At
thing
what
about
time do you think about Eric?
the thing about Eric is shout out to Eric Scott, by the way.
What are you doing when you're thinking about Eric?
Well, I think it's like 3 a.m.
So yeah,
and I'm fucking sweating. I don't know why I'm sweating, but I'm just sweating.
Oh my god.
You're a very sweaty man.
Eric, I can say if you're listening to this, that's never happened to me.
That's a lie. I filmed him.
Oh, Jesus.
So, no, but it wasn't until after a while that I realized that they were, because people would be like, "Oh, you put that band back together."
What the fuck is that? It's right there.
And they're like,
I don't know.
Not Blige Jinx. That's the other one.
Yes, Blige Jinx is the other group, but it's the. Oh my god! And you know what the problem is you guys are in. I was telling these guys earlier, 20,000 different fucking, and that's again, it's a Northwest thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with fucking Johnny and Heather were down here from Chance of Ghosts, and they were like, it's just a Northwest thing where you guys are all in 100 bands and just interchange the members and change the names, and sometimes you go back.
But people would come up and they would say, "Oh, you're in their band," and I'm like, "No,
that was 6 years ago."
I realized, oh yeah. Those three were in a band together, and so everybody thinks, all their friends think that that's the band, but it wasn't. It's Hellbelly. It's completely different.
Yeah,
all different music.
But you would look at the faces, you'd be like, "No, I'm pretty sure that's band B." Gosh, it'll come back to me when we're not talking about this.
Of course.
And then
that happens. And then another story. I was doing an interview with some guy. I can't remember the name of the magazine, and we were talking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you were," and he said, "Yeah, and you were in that band with Fred Armisen."
Oh yeah, like, I totally forgot about that story.
Like, no, I think you have me mistaken with somebody else. He goes, "No, you were in the band Wandering Lucy with Fred Armisen." I'm like, I was in Wandering Lucy. We made a record back in the 90s. And he goes, yeah. And he pulled out a picture that I remember taking the picture, and I remember looking at the picture multiple times. But I look at the picture, and it's fucking Fred Armisen in the picture, and it blew me away. I had no idea. No, I remember Fred. I remember playing music with him. I remember he was a really nice, very quiet guy. Yeah.
And now he's like this he's
like
huge
this guy.
actor.
I had no idea.
Oh, SNL guy, and then he was SNL, and then he was in big
Movie
actor.
star, yeah.
You know Fred Armisen, like you probably
Of
picture
course,
him, you see him, but like
everybody knows
Yeah.
who Fred Armisen
he was
is.
telling me this. I think you told me in an arts walk one year. You're
Yeah,
like I played in a band with Fred Armisen, and it's after somebody approached you about that story.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, what?
know,
you're like,
yeah.
check it out. And you had the photo, or had a picture of the photo, but I was like, that's fucking wild, man.
Yeah, weird.
Hellbelly fucking comes along. You do Hellbelly.
Yeah.
And well, that's by far probably the coolest band I've got to be part of. You know, before I got a cold call from Brian one day to be a part of the Hellbelly team, I was fucking with Mac, and that was fun for a while too. But
Yeah.
so I was it's a good time. So and then Hellbelly
yeah,
comes
for
along,
sure.
and you play Hellbelly, and then you guys are on like what I would consider like this prolonged hiatus, writing other things, projects kind of world like this.
Yeah. Eric and I did, and Tommy was part of it too. Not Resident, but actually Kings.
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 Yes, I
Yeah.
dig this stuff. That's
Yeah.
right.
We've never put it out. There's
No,
some
we did the
great
fucking
music.
great music.
Did a video
We
with
cut a
you.
video of it.
Yeah.
I fucking got all the
Never
versions
put it
still,
out.
and the record was cool. And it's like, or the song. I don't know if it was a full record or was it just EP. But I feel like there were a few songs.
There was a lot of songs. There was like 7 or 8 songs, something like that. Yeah.
At the same time as writing, you guys had written some. Well, a couple of you had written some harder stuff, like intended for would be a better fit, I guess, for Hellbelly stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you still
Yeah.
guys have that in the burner
Yeah.
or whatever. Man, and then now you're on.
Now I'm doing. I played with last year with Power Castle, right. We did a Hellbelly reunion right around the same time, and I played bass, recorded one song, played some shows with them, because they had the rest of the stuff recorded. And then I just thought it was a one-off. But Tim got a hold of me, I don't know, a few months ago, and he's like, I want to make a whole record. Brad and I have like 8 songs, just the skeletons of them. And so we've been working on it. We rehearsed yesterday. We've been rehearsing. We've got about 7 of them musically almost ready. We've got 1.5 more that we got to get musically ready. And there's no lyrics to them pretty much. And so I've been actually writing just lyrics for that band because the music's written. So I've written like 3 songs now lyrically. So, and it's a different animal. And it's like,
Yeah.
I wrote one and I said, I think I got something for this. And Tim's like, write them all. So it's kind of an interesting thing to just write lyrically for music that's already done. Kind of stretching that muscle a little bit because you don't know that you can do something. And somebody's like, isn't that really hard? This friend of mine, she's like, isn't that really hard to do? And I'm like, no, not really. If you want to make it hard, it can be. But I just write about bullshit that I know.
So you write. I think that you have a better fucking. I think you have an easier time writing songs because referencing the amount of bands that you've been in, I think that it would probably come a little bit easier. But then you wrote stuff, or was you and Eric had wrote stuff for Kings, like together?
Yeah, together.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote some of the stuff. Some of the King stuff I wrote by myself, and some of it he and I wrote together. And I'm trying to remember. No, I don't think there was stuff that he brought in of his own. But Eric, I think honestly, Eric and I collaborate better than anybody I've ever collaborated with. He and I were just like that thing of like, especially at the beginning with with Hellbelly, and anytime we got together and write in Hellbelly, it just kind of flowed, and we just kind of speak the same musical language. Yeah.
And he's
Same
not
with the Kings.
he's not necessarily the easiest guy in the world to fucking always jive with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just
Who is? Are you?
Well,
No,
I'd like
you're
to
not,
think so. I'd like to
I
think
don't think
so.
so.
I mean, come on.
I love you, but come on.
I mean, I
You're
love
like a
you
brother.
too.
You're like a
I love
brother,
you
and
too. But I mean, I at no point do I want to attack you like a vicious dog.
That's true. Did that happen? Oh, tell me.
No. No,
damn
I
it. I was
the
hoping
thing
for
about
some
it is
dick.
I've heard people say in reference to Eric. I mean, Eric even talked about it. He's like, you just gotta, Eric, and you know how to it sounds weird how to handle Eric, so to speak. You just you know what I mean. And some people are just like, he's a jerk. I'm like, well, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't.
Eric's not a jerk. Eric is a lead singer.
He's got
I'm not
LDS,
kidding.
LDS.
I don't necessarily mean that as a diss.
Or LSD.
Sort of a little bit, but
LSD.
Like LSD. Maybe a little bit, not towards him, but just in general, it's like, as you have too, you meet a lot of lead singers.
Yeah.
And they're a completely different breed. Just like drummers are a different breed.
Yep.
But lead singers are like, I posted this thing on. I don't ever post on stuff on Facebook, but I posted. I can bring it up. It was on Paul Stanley's official page or whatever, Paul Stanley fans or something. And I always get Kiss stuff in my feed, and it said it was a picture of him, no makeup, and he's like, "What do you like about me?" And he was all posing, and I said something about your how you don't need a constant validation. And he liked it. It's like, you're whatever it was,
You don't need validation.
Yeah, it's like, what do you like about?
And of course I love Eric too.
Yeah.
Singers, right?
Right.
I love Eric too. Like
Yeah.
you just gotta, it's all fun though. It's all fun.
Yeah.
And people will react. They're like, "Oh, well, he's just a jerk to me." I'm like, I don't think he's a jerk to you. Yeah. Were you a jerk to him? Because I feel like he would be a jerk to you if you were a jerk to him. But
to Eric?
Yeah,
Eric and I've had a couple
sometimes
fights.
people will say that. I've heard people say that. Well, he didn't want to talk to me. I'm like, well, that's different.
That's different.
That's different. Eric has a feng shui about like pre-show stuff and getting in the mindset.
There's a whole bunch of different reasons why you wouldn't want to talk to somebody particularly. I think overall that he's really good about engaging with people that are,
He's a really good job when he's on stage doing it.
Yeah, but also, it's like you said beforehand, or if you just come up like a jerk,
Yeah, you're the fucking band. Poke him in the chest.
Yeah,
but so yesterday was Kurt Cobain Day. Kurt Cobain Day.
And hey, don't forget Lane Staley.
And Lane.
Don't forget him.
Well, I wanted to touch a little bit on. So you during that time, right?
Yeah.
He's also a Nirvana super fan too. By the way.
I'm.
Yeah.
Quick question though. Do you ever think? Do you think there's something to be said about? So like the massive amounts of music the Pacific Northwest have put out, right?
Yeah.
Is there something? And I've asked others that we've had on, like, is there something about that we, in a way, kind of not take for granted? I don't think it's the right word, but kind of forget that came from here. You know what I mean? When we talk about Nirvanas and like I would go as far to say Pearl Jams and Soundgarden, all this other stuff like that. We just. So they move here, right? They move here from the Midwest, right? And we were just talking about various bands, and I know that he's a Nirvana fan, and I'm like, oh yeah, well they played at clubs downtown. I mean, and they were in the mix here, and then we had some guests on. They talked about like, we ran into those guys at a house party or whatever, and it's like, I think about it as like, they were from here. It's kind of just it's semi-normal. Yeah, it's cool, but like. And then I remember your reaction to that. You're like, "Are you fucking for real?" I'm like, this is their stomping grounds, like this area.
For sure.
When you were running around, like, did you run into were you guys like bumping shoulders with those guys? Were you played on stage with? Well, you missed that show. You missed that
one. Yeah. No, I saw them. I saw Dave Grohl's first show with them at the Surf Club. There's video of it online that you can actually see me and Jig and other people bouncing around in the crowd.
Was that down? That was
downtown,
was that
Barissa's
Club? Barissa's Club.
Yeah,
we were just talking about Barissa's fucking
club.
club.
Yeah, so I was at that show, and I had interactions with Kurt, a few of them. I wouldn't say we were friends. I would say we had a couple interactions that were pretty like this. I don't really want to talk about or go into really.
What when you say this?
Well,
I mean, I picture. I can edit. I can't edit. I mean, I can't.
I'll tell you one story. So we
fully invested.
Death Squad was playing. Death Squad was playing in this abandoned apartment building, rehearsing right next to the FBI offices on Jefferson, where they used to be.
Yeah.
And so we were squatting, and then we were practicing in the basement. You know what I mean? And we would wave at the FBI guys and all this stuff. And Jerry was living in one of the apartments and with a couple pit bulls, and it was pretty funny. From back in, this is in like, I don't know when, 80s, early 90s, something like that. And Eric Pugh from Death Squad had this left-handed Mustang that he, wood grain left-handed Fender Mustang that was stolen. And so then Kurt used to live on Pear, and right across the alleys where Chris Krause and Joe Keys and a bunch of guys lived, and I was crashing on the couch there for a few days, and we were there talking about losing the guitar, and Mikey came in from Fitz, and Mikey's like, "What? Kurt just bought one like yesterday."
Oh,
like, what?
Shit.
He just bought a wood grain, left-handed wood grain Fender Mustang. How many of those are around, right?
Well, it's hard to find a left-handed guitar by itself.
Right.
I literally deep dove into this, and that I've heard this story on like a deep dive Nirvana channel.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
people
wow. Yeah.
deep dive. I've heard like he lost a guitar, and now it's kind of like, whoa.
Well, we went. So I went over next door and knocked on the door, and Kurt's there, and I think Dave was there too. Kurt's at the door, and I don't speak ill about the Dead or anybody, especially that guy. I would never say anything bad, but he just wasn't very friendly with me because we were like a metal band, right? And they kind of looked at us as being meatheads. We were really looked down on by that community for a long time. Back in the 80s, there was like the metal guys and the punk guys. And then there was a melding of it, and nobody even knows about that now because it was so long ago. But so I just asked him, can we, told him the story, and he goes, yeah, it's not the same guitar. I'm like, okay.
Oh, damn.
Can I look at it? And so I can see down the hall, and I can see it sitting there on a stand. And there was like I think a cigarette burn on the back of the headstock. There was a very identifying mark. I think that's what it was. And so I kind of talked with him for a little bit, and I think I might have been a little drunk. And and so we're just talking, and finally I just like pushed him aside in his own apartment and walked in, and he's yelling at me, and I just picked it up and looked at it and said, nope, not the guitar, and I walked out. And I don't think he really liked me after that day.
Well, no shit.
I mean, kind of just walked in the fucking man's apartment.
I know. I'm just. And then
He'd
I
been
would see
drinking
him.
a little bit.
I mean, who just walks in
Hey,
the
listen,
fucking
and
man's
then
After a
apartment?
couple shots, I get it.
He was dating this woman, Cheryl.
You're like,
and
that's
we
my
were-
fucking guitar, okay?
We were at Shakey's Pizza. This might have been a year later or something. We were at Shakey's Pizza, and he was dating this woman I knew, Cheryl. Really, really great lady. Love her to death. And she walks in with him, and I'm there at the counter, and she's like, oh, Brian, blah, 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 blah. You know Kurt? And we both just went,
We've met.
We've met. And that was kind of the end of my interaction with Kurt. So I didn't really have a lot, of interactions with him. I would see him around and stuff and, like nod and stuff like that. But yeah, not really.
The one interaction you had was I guess
Walking up in his house,
not
man.
the ideal scenario,
really.
but you confirmed it wasn't that guitar.
Yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
I shouldn't be saying all this on a podcast. This is just kind of personal information, but I worked for L7 for a number of years, and Gus Brandt, who I love to death, got me that job and taught me so much. And he was the Foo Fighters tour manager for like 20 some odd years. I think he still is.
It probably still is.
I know he was working with Blink-182, and I haven't talked to him in a couple
We
of
can
years.
just get
but
Dave Grohl. I'd
we
be
used
happy.
to talk. Well, I actually think that incident cost me a job working for the Foo Fighters because I was going to move. I wanted to, and Gus was talking about it. He's like, yeah, I'll get you on. Don't worry. I'll get you on, because that's the way that industry works.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
It was definitely
Yeah,
I know a
we-
guy. I know a
just-
guy.
I know a guy.
Well, so fucking Dave was
So
there.
maybe that
Dave was
happened.
playing with them. Dave was there.
Yes.
Like in his. I mean,
I think.
Was he? You said he was living with Kurt.
Yeah, at the
He
time.
he
yeah,
just
yeah.
would have joined Nirvana
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
time.
It would have been at that time. Yeah.
it was early. Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
that
90
story.
September.
I haven't told that story much, but it's because it's kind of embarrassing because I was a dick.
I mean,
If there's a villain in that story, it's
Yeah.
definitely.
I can see.
I can see.
I can
Like,
see your
come on.
concern.
Like,
I can
I
see your
get it.
concern for
Yeah,
your bro. I can see your
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of
Yeah,
left-handed guitars, and B, not a lot of left-handed Fender Mustang.
Yeah.
At the same time, same thing. You also just bought it.
Yeah.
It was just jacked.
That's-
Like
Excuse me.
what?
That's
like,
so cra-
coincidence up the ass.
That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah, but
crazy.
at the same time, it's like he doesn't like me because I'm kind of a meathead at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And being drunk.
That
and
meathead
doing
pushed
what
me
I
around
did,
in my own
I
apartment.
kind of proved his point. Yeah, I kind
That's
of
true.
proved his point there. a
Way to
little
go!
bit.
Way to fucking way
Nice
to
job,
bat one for the
Sparhawk,
fucking
yeah.
genre.
It's crazy because he also wow, this is gonna prove how much of a super fan I am. He also got a guitar. I don't know if it was in the late '80s or like mid '90s, but it was stolen from his like estate. Like it was like taken from his
Really?
shit. Yeah, that's why when you said left-handed
Oh.
Mustang, I was like, whoa, what? Like,
So he had one stolen from him?
yeah, I don't know if it was after his death or like when he was alive still. But
We had a Fitz of Depression had a storage unit out here in Lacey that we rehearsed in. Not very often because we were always gone, but like we would rehearse in it when we were in town. And we had it broken into, and we lost a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, Mikey lost a couple guitars, I lost a couple basses, a couple amps. Mikey lost an amp, a Vox Beetle amp had that Kurt had given him. So it was a Kurt Cobain Vox Beetle had gone.
I hate
And
when
we
I hate
never
when
saw
fucking gear
it,
gets
we never
stolen.
saw any of it ever again. And there was stuff that was like that Vox Beetle head was one, and Mikey, that iconic like SG that was gray spray painted with the stickers, that was one of the guitars, and it's like gone. And I had a couple amps, one that was made for the guy from Journey, Ross Mallory, and that was like a Balder or something like that I'd bought in San Francisco. Gone. So all this stuff that's really weird, unique stuff, just gone. Never seen it again.
Never fucking seen it again.
Yeah, and that was in the 90s.
And ironically, you would never paint an SG now. You would never paint an SG guitar now.
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
never paint that fucking thing. You're like, I'm gonna have an SG. This is beautiful. This is a
Yeah.
wall hanger.
Yeah,
Dude, that's fucking crazy,
Yeah,
man.
can't you
Dude,
just walk
I
in that
remember
man's
this. I remember
car?
the second part of that story. You told me that
Yeah.
once. I didn't. The cigarette burnt part of it. I did not realize the parties involved at the time. That's pretty
Yeah.
funny.
That's
goddamn meathead.
Fucking insane. You just walked
I did get to spend a bunch of time with Chris though, because one of the L7 tours, Sweet 75, opened up. I don't know if you know that band.
I deep dove into his side project. It was really good.
Yeah, they toured with L7 for like a couple months, and then he did this movie, a documentary, weird kind of I don't remember the name of it. Beauty Process, triple platinum beauty process tour movie or something, and I worked on that a little bit with him. I did some writing on it with him and Danita, and so I kind of got to hang out with him and stuff a little bit. Yeah,
fucking
nice guy, really nice guy. Yeah,
I would assume he just looks like a gentle, just nice ass dude. Like
yes, very much so.
Like
just
very
nice
soft
guy.
spoken type of guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I just
like maybe not.
Like,
yeah.
I just fangirling. Sorry.
What do you think? Oh, man, now you got me thinking about crazy fucking a bunch of stolen. I just hate when people's gear gets stolen, man. It sucks, dude. You hear it all the time. And as of late, like there's been various like, this band's gears, and everybody just plasters that shit. Like they're sharing it on Facebook, they're sharing it on all these social medias. And like, if you had a presence on social media, you better not fucking show anybody that if you stole gear or have stolen gear, because dude, they're gonna find out. And now people like know. I mean, it's different now. Like, I bet you that guitar just showed back up had it been stolen today.
Yeah, probably. But I thought about it. They probably sanded it down and repainted it right away. And it probably is out there, and you just don't know it's that guitar.
So Kurt could have actually had it. Right to the fucking wood shop. No, I mean, I wouldn't say that.
No, but you're right about that. You know, it's like being on the road. Like, there's certain hotels that got a reputation right away.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stay at this hotel. There was one in Jersey, the one where Sonic Youth got all their. Sonic Youth had a big truck. I don't know if you heard about that. That was stolen.
Oh,
with all their gear.
Yeah,
that was stolen, and a bunch of bands. That's happened to a bunch of bands.
Mm-hmm.
It's always kind of around the same areas. You know, hotels get the word gets out there that the bands stay in this hotel, and then they start getting ripped off.
You remember they would teach us, hey, back the fucking RVs into the wall, back that trailer into the fucking
wall.
brick as far as you can. And then park a car in front of the side door, like do whatever you can. Like
somebody sleeps in it. I would always opt to sleep in the van, because with Fitz we would always end up like not having a hotel. We don't have money for a hotel. We can barely eat, so we rely on fans being, you can come stay at my house. And Mikey was always the one who would find the people, because I would not. He had the gift of gab. Mike would talk to people, and so we'd always go to these places, and I was like, "Yeah, you can just crash my couch. It'll be cool. It's totally mellow. There's nothing really going on." And you go over there, and there's like fucking 30 people, and it's
mellow
a party.
My ass.
So I was always like, "I'm going out I'll sleep in the van tonight. See you guys."
Dude, when we were in LA, and you guys all went out to that fucking party, and we guys went. It was God, what was that? That was It was in Hellbelly. We were down there, down in Cali.
Well, I figured that part, but.
And I remember you guys went into that. Did you go into the party too? Did you go into that?
I probably did.
That party of fucking Joey's party, Joey's friend's party. Rest in peace, buddy, Joey. But and then I stayed in the RV with all the shit. You know what I mean? Because we had just left a gig. I won't say who, but like there was a piece there was a piece in there too, so I was good to go if he was gonna try to bust in the fucking RV, dude.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was like it was a who's party, but it involved that fucking producer guy and whatever down there. Remember that?
Oh, I didn't go to that party. No.
I thought you were there. God, so it must have just been Bogny and Tommy and Eric then and Joey. But
I have a funny party story though. When we were down in LA one time with Fitz and Carp. You know Carp? Remember that band from?
I know the name.
It's Justin. I always say Jared, but it's Jared. Jared, who's in Unwound now, and he was in Carp. He also played with Big Business and the Melvins. Big Afro guy. You know Jared.
Yeah.
Jared. What's Jared's last name? I just know those guys from being kids. Well, we were on tour and we were in LA, and we were staying. There's this club called the Jabberjaw, which we would play at, and there's this guy Gary Dent, and we would hang out with him at his house and stuff. We were hanging out there, and then somebody had said, and I remember they're like, we're going over to Drew Barrymore's, who lives with
my ex-wife. Holy shit,
Eric Erlanger from Hole, and we're gonna go over there and get some weed. I can say this. I don't know if, anyway.
Drew, if you're seeing this, we know about you. We fucking know about you.
Hearsay. I understand this hearsay. So I didn't go. I didn't want to go because I just can't handle those types of situations. I kind of freak out a little bit. Not because she's famous, just because a room full of people smoking pot, because I've been clean and sober for like 30 plus years. I just don't really do it. I stay kind of out of those situations. But I guess the guys from Carp went there, and they were fucking with her. They were all really stoned, and they were like telling Drew to like, can you light stuff on fire with your eyes? You know,
Jesus
some fire started, all this shit. Those carp guys were the funniest guys ever. I swear to God, they would make you laugh so bad. And then Craig Becker, the drummer for Fitz, was just baked out of his head, and he's sitting right next to Drew. And we laughed about this for years. And he's sitting there, and he's like, doesn't know what to say to her. And he goes,
stage fright.
And he goes, yeah. He goes, do you know Alyssa Milano? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, that's rad. Straight up.
not Drew Barrymore. Not Drew Barrymore.
I mean,
that's
they're
rad.
both pretty cool.
Yeah, that's totally badass.
So, and then of course the carp guys came back and told us that story, and I fucking
That's hilarious.
harassed him forever about
That's
it.
rad.
So funny.
What's your
That's rad.
what is your wildest, funniest fucking on the road music story or band story?
Oh my God, there's just too many. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, being in the van, they're not so much about. Well, there's just so many. It's like we were on tour, you know, and I had been booking all the stuff, all the shows, and Calvin Johnson from K Records was just really helpful. He would let me come up and do it out of the K offices, and he had this big book that he opened up, and it's every city in the U.S., and it's got 3 or 4 numbers for different clubs, and he was always constantly updating it, and so he let me into that book, so I'm doing it. So, but throughout that process, we got a booking agent. I started talking to this woman, Ellen Stewart, who was from Go Ahead Booking. She booked Seaweed, and she just happened to be at Yo-Yo Go-Go. Clint Werner from Seaweed talked her into coming to our show, and that, you know, there's so many things that are just like, just coincidence. And so then
The chance
she
stuff.
likes our band. You know what I mean? And so then I start talking to her, and she helped us get a show at CBGB's. I talked to that woman there. I can't remember her name now. I'd call her up and I'd be like, "Hi, I'm Brian from. Did you send a tape?" You know,
Just like the movies. Send this fucking tape.
Well, I'll look at it. Click. You know, and I do all this for like 5 times, trying to get a show at CBGB's because it's our first U.S. tour, and I desperately want to play at CBGB's. Who wouldn't? And so then I talked to Ellen, and she said, "Just call up and say Ellen Stewart told me to call." And so I called her up. This is like my 8th time, so I think she probably knows I'm one of probably 50 annoying people that she answers the phone every day. And I just called up and I said, "Hi, this is Brian. Ellen Stewart told me to call." And she goes, "Oh, what are you looking for?"
That's the magic word.
And we got a show with Unsane, you know, at CBGB's on a Tuesday.
It's
with
fucking
like
who you know, dude.
With
It's
like
who you know.
100 people. You know, there's at least 100 people or more at that show. You know, it's like, and there's pictures of it. Of us standing out in front of CBGB's. It's like just because of that shit. So that kind of stuff was just really amazing. So we're on the road for like 2.5 months, and then Ellen, I talked to her on the phone, pre-cell phones. I talked to her, pay phones, call her every day, and talk to her. And she's like, "I know you guys been out for 2.5 months, and you're gonna go home for a break, but there's an opportunity to play with Rage Against the Machine in LA, 2 shows, but you'll have to leave the day after you get home."
Fuck.
And I'm like, "Okay, we'll go.
Guess we're gonna fucking do that.
Guess we're going down and doing that."
That's
Yeah.
fucking sick.
But the thing about that was interesting was you have that thing of where you're like, "Fuck, we're opening for Rage in front of like 5,000 people, and it's the most amazing thing ever." And you get there and you meet them, and they're just really nice guys, and you're part of the scene. And at that point, you know, except for the Nirvana stuff, which I wasn't really around, and they opened for Soundgarden. I was at that show, but I wasn't in the band. I worked the stage, throwing people off at that show, but we weren't really part of that thing. So it was this kind of different, newer, higher level thing. And so we thought it was gonna be the coolest thing in the world. So we got up there and just play our first song, and just fucking so much energy. We're just so psyched about it. And we get done, and you're expecting like 5,000 people to roar the crowd, and it was like fucking pin drop.
Fucking cicadas out
Oh
there.
yeah, totally.
Dude,
Cicadas out
how
there.
deflating,
And you're just
dude.
like, oh my God. And you realize, but you don't know it at the time until you're in it. They have a rabid fan base. They don't want to see some shit punk band from Olympia, Washington. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like they're all
That's
into
true,
their
I
thing.
guess.
It's like fucking
Yeah,
Tool
yeah.
fans.
And then,
Hey.
then you hear, I know. Then you hear, "You suck," you know, and I'm like, "You paid," you know.
Are you a
Bullshit.
fucking
Hey.
are you a Tool fan? You a Tool fan?
I actually don't want to comment on that. Let's just
we
change
we
the
went, we got
Let's
into
just change the
we got
subject.
into this discussion, and I
I
said
have
to
a
myself,
lot of friends that I don't want to get into fights with, so I don't want to
I'm just I'm gonna just hear, this is, I'm gonna make this the one point. I ain't scared.
Yeah,
I'll make one point.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not a Tool fan
Yeah.
per se. I appreciate the music.
Oh,
I appreciate their
fucking
fucking. I
here we go
appreciate their
again.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. What gets me about bands like that in this
Yeah.
fucking in this cultist,
Yeah.
Shit, come on.
it's the fans, right?
Yeah.
It's the fans that drive you fucking crazy.
Well, they feel if you have any sort of historical context to think about that, that question, you will look back to the Grateful Dead, and then you'll look back to Fish, and you'll say, okay, there's a culture there that is just phenomenal. It's like these people that are just super fans that are way into the whole idea of the band and what they stand for as much as they're into the band, and it's a really cool thing. Musically, I'd much rather listen to A Perfect Circle or Puscifer than Tool.
I could get on board with
huge.
it. I could get on
love
board with that.
Puscifer.
The problem is,
Puscifer.
I always feel like there's this
You know what I
weird,
mean?
this weird gatekeeping thing with it.
Yeah.
If I want to be, if I show interest in the band Tool, and I'm like, yeah, and you got all their hardcore guys.
Yeah.
European bands are even worse, but like hardcore. They're like, well, do you know the X blah 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 blah?
Yeah,
Have you got the tattoo? And I'm like, I just want to fucking listen to the band. You know, maybe I want to be part of the club. I just don't gatekeep the shit. You know what I mean?
When I was like, God, I must have been 23 years old, and I had just sobered up, and this buddy, this guy, I kind of knew. I know him really well now, but I kind of knew him at the time. He's like, there's this cool thing going on in San Francisco. You want to go down and go to it? I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'll go with him. So we road trip it, and so we get in his car, and he's like, what do you want to listen to? And he like opens up this back, like this thing that folds up in the back seat, and it's all cassettes. And I'm like, oh, he goes, you want Winterland 73? Or do you want maybe, the LA Forum from, and I'm like, and it was all the Grateful Dead. And so I spent like 5 days listening to the Grateful Dead, and I wanted to kill him by the end of that. I'm not kidding.
I mean, the Grateful Dead's good. It's just
They've evolved so much now. I know some Deadheads. I know some.
Yeah.
I know who they are too.
When I look at the culture behind it, from a different perspective. At the time, I hated the Grateful Dead, fucking hippies, all that stuff. I really did.
Fucking hippies.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But
That's a good bumper sticker. Fucking hippies.
I want
Fucking
that
hippies.
I'd put
bumpers.
that on my
I
car.
I would
put
rock
that on
that.
my car too.
Just because of the funny, not because of anything
yeah.
against hippies, but
right.
it's them.
But like,
it's them
at the
damn.
time, I fucking hated them. But then, like I said, with historical context, I'm like, I actually really appreciate the Grateful Dead on a different level than before. Absolutely. And I feel the same way about Tool. I like Tool. I don't dislike that band at all. But I have friends that are rabid about it. My friend Jillian is rabid. I remember we were coming back from Ellensburg. Jillian West, realtor. Really
Shout out.
cool.
Shout
Shout
out
out Jillian West Realty. She's fucking awesome.
Sponsor our fucking show.
She's,
What?
She
Sponsor
might,
it.
She might.
I'll
But
give you
she-
all the tags you want.
But this is, well, probably not after what I say what I'm saying.
Well,
We're
fuck.
coming back from Ellensburg.
We always do this.
Yeah, this is like,
Every
I don't know,
time.
3 or 4 months ago. And she's like, what do you want to listen to? And I'm in the passenger seat, and there's people in the back, her boyfriend's in the back, and we're all hanging out. And it's like, I'm like looking at her playlist, and there's some Tool. And I love, the song that I love the most is what?
46 and 2.
No.
Oh,
The other one.
Schism.
Schism.
Anima.
And
Oh, Enema.
That's
Okay.
I
a
do
fucking,
like-
that is a really
That's-
badass song.
I do like that song.
That's
I
a
do.
badass song.
I
So I'm
was-
like, I'll put this on. And so my friend Jillian, it's like, you want to listen to Tool? Actually, do you want to listen to Tool while she screams over it?
You want to hear to a backing track while she sings
yes,
it?
and that you can't turn it up loud enough to drown it. I love you, Jillian.
Shout out to Jillian. Shout out to Jillian West. Oh, please
So
sponsor the
listen-
show.
Yeah.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I just did. Yeah, I don't dislike Tool either.
Yeah.
That applies to like. I'm not a huge Rush fan, but it's because of this weird
Yo,
fucking
I
wall.
would stop.
This
Dude,
we've
Rush
said it
fan-
before.
No, Rush fans are weird, man. They're
We
gonna
see it.
fucking come at you
Can I
with
just say-
pitchforks.
Can I just say my first real concert, the big concert, was the Moving Pictures Tour, Rush. I want to say 1984, 83 or 84. That's the first show I ever went to.
Is that fucking? You know, my first
See,
show
I
was
said
everyone
Carlson,
was
what?
fucking Megadeth.
Megadeth,
Right after
yeah.
fucking Symphony came out,
I think my first show.
and that blew my fucking mind. By the
Fuck.
way,
Yeah, yeah.
blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
I think I saw like, oh fuck, Fleetwood Mac.
That's a good
Nice.
show.
I think
like Fleetwood.
I think they performed at our state fair.
Were you guys alive when Nirvana was?
No,
No.
No.
I didn't think you were alive at all.
They're
yeah.
babies. They're just babies.
I
know,
They're just
I know.
infantile.
have to
I got like the
remember
last
that
good years of
stuff,
the
yeah.
90s. The last good
The
years.
last good years.
Ninety-
When were you born?
97.
97, yeah.
The last good years.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
I-
he's trying to think about what bands he was in.
Unfortunately, did not get any of
Californication
the
came
90s.
out in the 90s.
You didn't make the 90s, you said?
I did not. I was
I'm
born
trying to remember.
in January of 2000.
Oh, there you go.
Damn,
Right.
you
Right,
were
right after the
cut
computer,
off.
right after the computers shut down.
yeah, right after the world ended, and then I was born, and that was actually
You're like, is this the Rapture? This is the Rapture for sure. Like,
it's kind of related, honestly.
fucking babies.
Yeah.
I did appreciate though, like when I first met Colt, they came up visit a few summers ago, and I had mentioned he's like oh, I fucking love Nirvana. I was like, that's fucking rad. Like that's cool. Like, in my mind, I'm just like it's different.
And
like I would expect a lot of the music that's shoved down your throat is probably more country or classic. And nothing wrong with that in its own right.
It's actually like 311, Blue October.
Nothing wrong with those bands either, by the way.
As somebody from the Midwest, Amber is probably the best song 311 has. Like I heard
Amber is the color of your energy.
I just heard so much of their shit. I'm over it. Amber is probably the best thing, and then fucking Hate Me by Blue October. That's probably the only fucking other good song that the Midwest has produced besides country.
As a really hardcore Blue October fan, I will literally say you're crazy.
That's
they have such a huge.
That's
fine. Have a huge. I went and saw them at the Temple Theater just not that long ago. They played in Tacoma at the Temple Theater.
They were
we
did
good
fucking backline for that at the McMenamins there. We did their whole backline set. Yeah,
for that one. Yeah, I was at that show. I went to that show.
Really? Yeah. It's all of our fucking instruments.
I never saw them in the era of Hate Me. I didn't even. I knew that song existed, but then they have some stuff. They have this song. I think it's on their second record, or not on Foiled, but Approaching Normal, or might be Foiled, called Jump Rope. And if you're ever in the car with your kids when they're younger, life's like a jump rope. My kids would fucking play jump rope, and so because I would play that song one time, and they were like, it's like bump, 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 and they're like, play jump rope. So it was always on concert repeat.
This is deep diving a little back into before I met dear old Emily here. My
ex-fiance.
No, ex.
He's been fired twice from this, by the way.
You really are going to bring her up here in this context?
No. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because the lead singer of Blue October lived 4 houses down from her mom, and
so you would see him.
I saw him and I got like starstruck once. I was like, holy shit! Like you are the lead. I was like, damn, because he lives in Omaha. Not sorry to.
I'm not singing bad about Omaha.
Dox him. Put his address out on the internet. Dox him. Do it right now.
Don't. We are in enough trouble on this fucking this.
We've got a cease and desist from Ronnie Radke. Like
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen has come for me personally.
Jesus.
I'm being sued by Tim Allen.
I don't talk shit about what other people like. I just don't. But that's not. I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I saw them on the Mother's Milk tour, and then everything after that I think is crap. That's just my personal opinion.
That's completely kind of fair.
Mother's Milk.
That's fair.
That record is amazing.
That's Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
No.
That's
before. That's the record before.
Yep. Holy shit. Wow.
Yep.
So she gets herself in some trouble.
If you see me getting mighty, if you see me getting high, knock me down.
Yeah.
Those fuckers would argue this.
Dude, so good.
People will argue like, well, I like pre-clean bands. I'm like, I don't. That's not the flex you think.
I don't know, man. Fucking Under the Bridge by Californication on Californication. That's a good fucking song.
That is definitely a classic song and a good song for sure.
Like
so I don't knock stuff, but just for me, my own personal.
I mean, everyone has their own taste.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of it, right?
I don't want you guys to fucking argue about this. Okay?
I don't know how you can say.
There's a lot of tension.
That's good and that's not.
I got so much tension with Brian right now.
Yeah, it's fucking hard tension. But
Honestly,
I just don't want to get any more trouble.
What about what's your thoughts on Primus? So that's kind of a weird.
God, I love Primus. I got to see them multiple times back in the day, back in the '90s. Multiple times. I saw them on Lollapalooza. I saw them at the Mercer Arena. I think I saw them like 3 or 4 times. Back on Sailing the Sea of Cheese.
Oh, that's a fucking great album.
And a Big Brown Beaver, all that stuff. And as a bass player, it was really what got me into him because what he's doing on the bass, what Les Claypool does on the bass, it's like not even recognizable on how he does it. You're like. I have no idea how you would even pull that off.
Jerry the race car driver, I still am like, I still look at it. I'm like, how do you? I don't even know how he plays it. Like,
I was a huge Primus fan. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's my take on Primus. Yeah.
That's fair.
Sure,
Nerds.
See, no, like I was not allowed. I guess I didn't get to experience those fucking groups until. Like it was way too late. It was out of prime and all that. And I later on, because like I grew up and it was like all country and shit. And then I get to rock and roll, and then I went right into rock and roll, like Megadeth, into AC/DC, into like then I was introduced into like the punk rock. And then it wasn't even until just in recent years, like the pedigree of punk rock, even in the Northwest, that we had. And I was like, God, what the fuck, dude? This is ridiculous.
So the thing that you're saying about like not really realizing that they come back from here, like you kind of forget that a little bit. It kind of is true for me because for me it's like that time was like just part of my life, right?
Yeah, you were
And then
when you say you were
now-
in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, for sure. I was totally in it. You know what I mean? We played the Vogue. I had run into those guys up in Seattle a bunch. You know, we'd just run into them and see them. Like, you know, Chris Cornell and Andrew Wood and all those guys. You see them.
Oh,
just see 'em
Pa,
around, yeah.
you just ran into Andy Wood
Yeah, well, Andy Wood played
Like,
the first time I saw
of
Andy
Mother
Wood.
Love Bone.
Yeah,
Andy,
yeah.
holy
The first
shit.
time that I saw Andy Wood was his band Malfunction played with Metal Death Squad and the Melvins and 64 Spiders at Gesco here in Olympia, and he was Landry the Love God. And they came in, and I remember this really clearly. They came in and they were like, "We're taking over the show, and we're running the show." And Kaiser was the fucking one who was the alpha dog, always in the room about making sure we got paid and the money, and we let him do it because he was always really good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he would make sure we got money because usually we'd be like, whatever, we don't care, you know. And he'd be watching the door.
We don't have gas money,
Yeah,
but
but we don't know. We're just drunk, and he wasn't. He was like on it. And so then when Andrew came in, and Andrew was like, "Yeah, we're running the door, and we're doing all this," and Tom and him got into a fight, and it almost spilled onto the street into a fist fight. I remember that night. Yeah.
So if you ran into Andy, like just ran, I'm not saying you're like best friends with the man,
No,
but
no.
you ran into Andy Wood, then you probably would have ran into Lane Staley because he was Andy Wood's friend.
I did not run in. I mean, when I say I ran into, like, I mean, I remember being on Broadway and running into Andrew Wood and seeing him because I knew who he was from the show that we did with Malfunction. That was pre-Mother Love Bone. That was before Mother Love Bone was a thing. Back then, you would see a lot of those people out and about, like if you hung out in Seattle. So I would see them around, and it wasn't a big deal. But just, you know, you'd just be like, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. That's Andrew from Malfunction, you know. And the Alice in Chains guys, we would see them around. They were kind of, we saw them, and Eric told that story about, you know, they played out at Evergreen State College in the gymnasium with Green Apple Quick Step and some other band. And so we went and saw that. And that was, they did the Shitty City tour, they called it. Or
Shitty
something.
City. The Shitty City.
Tour.
That's a perfect fucking encompasses fucking the P.N.W. Like, just that's the kind of thing that people from here would say.
But like Lane, and I think Lane was at this, but Jerry, they had a band called Diamond Lie. And I was in a band, that band Fallout, the one with the Seaburgers. And there was a battle of the bands at St. Martin's Pavilion that Diamond Lie won. And I remember standing there and watching him win it and standing right next to him because we're all on the stage. And then the winner is, you know, and we're all standing there. And it was Diamond Lie. And I remember seeing Jerry Cantrell. He looked just like him, long blonde hair.
I don't think, has he ever changed in his look?
Well,
that dude is not.
He's older. But like, I remember thinking at the time, that guy is so full of himself. You know what I mean? But then it's like that whole thing of like, you have that attitude and you're going to be, you know.
I guess you have to, at some point, you got to have that attitude.
Yeah.
Well, no, they all don't. All those guys don't, though.
So back to my original point, though, is like those are all just stories and all just people, but I don't really connect those moments really with those people because they're like icons, right? Like Chris Cornell, Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley. All those people are these big iconic rock stars, but they weren't. They were just like dudes, you know what I mean? And then they got like famous, and then they were never seen again.
Yeah, they were building their, I guess for lack of a better term, empire, so to speak.
We just need to keep Eddie Vedder protected. We need that man protected.
Protected, right? Yeah.
Protect that voice.
And I was just reminded of it, because they come, they're like, oh, we like this and we like that. Well, I mean, I know my sister obviously, but I didn't know. I mean,
I just entered a few years ago, got introduced to the Melvins.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Melvins, another one, and I was like, okay, yeah, and in my mind, I'm like, I appreciate the music that comes from the Northwest. You know, obviously I was way younger, and I wasn't. You're in it in the music scene, but you're doing your own thing. But these guys are just there, and they're in bands. So I would equate it to like, so I go out now, or this Hellbelly plays, right? And then all those bands that are playing on a bill with Hellbelly, you know, those guys go off and they do this thing or they do this thing, or like, oh, they're playing this fucking tour now or whatever. That's really cool. And then that just moves up. But I just forget, like, oh, they're Nirvana fans, and I was like, oh yeah, Nirvana, they're a cool band, they're from here, and they're fucking from here, you know. It was kind of cool, but then I got to be thinking about, God, am I giving it enough credit? Because like, yeah, it's well known in the Pacific Northwest and the grunge movement and all that stuff. You know, it was a cool time, and I just. Now that makes me think. I'm like, I should appreciate it more while some of these guys are still around. You know, like
one thing that I've noticed that's been happening is like, if you look at like say Bikini Kill, you guys know Bikini Kill?
Love Bikini Kill.
So they're playing shows. They're going to play here in Olympia again.
Shit,
they're
really?
playing. They're having like it's on the Port is doing like a festival with X. You know the band X, Xavier Cervenka, John Doe. Look into them. They're great. They're from L.A. They're one of the original punk bands from like the late '70s, and they're still around.
That sounds
doing it.
familiar.
Yeah, if you saw him, you would know. If you saw John Doe, you'd be like, "Oh, he was a B actor too in a bunch of movies."
Did they come out around the time like Black Flag came out?
Yes,
okay.
yeah, they were on that label Slash Records. They're a cool band.
It sounds familiar.
So Bikini Killer's still playing shows, right? And they're like bigger than they were in the '90s. Like they actually played the Opera House in Sydney.
Wow.
They're playing big places, you know, and like
I would like to just go to the Opera House
really
in Sydney.
cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, they just did they just played at the Capitol Theater and did like a Free Palestine benefit not that long ago. Raised like 18 grand, I think, or something like that.
Damn.
You know, I mean, for a cause. I mean, they're still around. They're still doing it. They're still bigger than ever, and just yeah. So there's a lot, you know, and like Unwound are playing bigger venues too than they did when they were like they're doing a reunion with different members. Like Scott Seckington is playing with them, and he was in this band, the Old Haunts, and he was the keyboard player for Two Ton Boa, and then he and Sherry, the singer, got married. I remember when they got together because we were in Austin. We played this show at South by Southwest, really cool show in Texas, Austin. This is, I don't know, 90 something and maybe late 90s. And then they only give you one hard pass for the whole band. And there was a lot I wanted to see that day. I saw a lot of really cool music, and they were like, "No, go ahead and take it." I'm like, what? No, yeah, go ahead and take it, have fun. And they stayed at the hotel. And they ended up, I guess, getting together that day, or maybe they just had. And
They're probably playing like Uno or some shit.
Yeah, and but I got the hard
Twister.
pass and got
Twister,
to go,
naked Twister.
Yeah, got to go to see.
Yeah, you're like, go take this pass. That's fucking fun.
Yeah.
South by fucking Southwest. I always wanted to go down.
So were
It
you
was a
in
deal.
were you making music around the time like I might butcher the Vampire Lesbos? Or
Vampire Lesbos. I know the band name, but I don't know them. Where are they from?
they're here.
They're from here?
Yeah, or the
Not this house,
not
but the
this house, but like
Olympia.
Olympia,
They live
Tacoma
here.
area.
Actually, Vampire Lesbos.
Hey!
I know the name. I know the name, but I don't know them.
Oh,
no.
okay. I was
what
like-
year, what era was that?
late
Late
80s, early
Yeah.
or late mid 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I was
So-
definitely around.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
like
yeah,
you were
yeah.
making like you probably
Making
heard
music.
like all the demos coming out too.
Probably. Oh yeah. A
Like-
lot of that stuff.
That's why you
Yeah.
gotta listen. You gotta listen to more rock and roll and metal
I
and
recommend
punk rock,
Mudhoney.
and stop listening to Cardi B
I just
and
listen to different
I recommend Mudhoney.
rock. I don't know.
different rock.
Mudhoney's pretty
Mudhoney's
good.
Mudhoney,
Mudhoney's good.
yeah. And you forget the sheer amount of bands. You start thinking about like how many bands are from the Pacific
Well,
Northwest.
they
Holy
got-
shit!
Well,
so many.
I can name like 5 right now.
I can name 50 if you really press me.
Yeah. Oh, got me.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm
just one.
saying,
And that's
no,
just the
I'm-
ones that Brian's been in.
No.
That's just the ones
I'm
that
talking about. Yeah, they're just so. There was during that era. There was so many bands, so many good bands.
Green River.
Green River.
They never. I feel
absolutely.
like they never really got a chance. Like,
No, because they turned into Mudhoney and Mother Love Bone.
oh shit, that is right.
Those-
They
were-
really
they
did
were the
break up.
members.
So they did get a
broke up.
chance. They
did
just
get a
did in
chance.
different
They're like-
formats.
I
They're
wish.
huge.
I wish
Yeah.
Green River would have got that chance to. I wanted to. They had
Yeah.
that weird sludgy sound that I like.
Yeah.
You got like bands like Green Jello that just been around forever and just still play.
Aren't Green Jello from L.A. though?
Yeah,
Is
but
that
then
Green Jello?
they spend a lot of time up here and like
I thought Green Jello is the collective. There's a collective in L.A. and Tool came out of Green Jello, and a bunch of other. I think Green Jello. Look it up. It's documented. There's a whole group. They were like an art collective in L.A. that a whole bunch of bands came out of.
yeah.
And I want to say maybe even the Chili Peppers came out of it, but I know that Tool came out of it and a bunch of other bands, cool bands. Came out
That's
of
fucking
this.
crazy.
They
I
were
didn't
all
know
just
that.
artists that kind of hung out together in this studio space, and yeah.
It's collaborated.
Yeah.
Dude, that's fucking wild, man. I just always see the Green Jello. Oh, Green Jello's playing this fucking local venue or whatever, and I'm like, they were just playing somewhere else like 2 days ago, like on the other side of the country,
Like,
and it's like various members, but it's like
weren't, weren't you in New York? Like, where?
Hey, my first interaction with Tool, and I told my friend this, and she's like, "What? I can't play." My Tool fans is I don't remember what year it was, but it was the best Lollapalooza ever, and I was at the one at Kitsap Fairgrounds, the one that had Jesus and Mary Chain, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden.
Somebody
Red Hot
else I
Chili
know was
Peppers,
talking about that the other
Ministry,
day.
Ice Cube. I mean, I was at that one, but the best one ever was the one, I think it might have been the next year or the year after that, and it had Rancid, Devo, Soundgarden, Metallica headline. It's the one that Metallica headline. But Tool was on that one, and they were playing the second stage. So were the Melvins, and so was this band Soul Coughing. I don't know them. But they were, Gus Brent, my friend Gus, that was his first love, that band, was them. And but the Tool on the second stage, I remember walking by to go to the main stage, and there was maybe like 30 people, 40 people at the stage watching Tool. And I just remember I stopped because they were playing sober. I was like, hey, I know this song. Down, out. And it was just kind of weird to have that kind of memory because I've never seen him like live except for that. So I tell people, yeah, I saw Tool, but I really didn't. You know what I mean? It's not fair to say, oh, yeah, I saw Tool because I saw...
You were there.
I saw like one song, and it was before they were Tool. Because Tool had to evolve into being Tool, just like the Grateful Dead did, you know.
Fucking lucky dogs. I hear stories about that fucking gig up there at Kids Hab.
I have so many shows that I could talk about that I have been at that people are like, what?
What was your favorite? What's your personal favorite show you've attended as a fan? Like just your favorite one. Could be any time.
That's a really tough one. I don't know. I would say that one was one of the Ramones' last shows. Was at that.
That's kind of
what?
That's kind of an iconic moment. Yeah,
it really was. I think some of my favorite shows were ones that I saw from the side of the stage. You know, like when we.
Those are my favorite ones too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I remember when we were.
When you look out the monitor board and just like right across onto the deck.
When I first went to Europe with L7, they played festivals. They played little clubs, and then they played big festivals. Little clubs, you're sleeping on this flea-infested floor. The big clubs, you're staying in a 5-star hotel. I mean, literally, I never saw Vienna, Austria, because that day, the hotel we got was like a 5-star marble, gold, everything. And I had my own room. And that never happened. So it was like, of course, I'm not going to go see all this amazing city.
I'm also going to try to drift it. I'm going to go out and see Vienna a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm going to stay in. I was tired too. But no, that one was like, we were on the side of the stage, and like, with me and Gail Greenwood from L7, their bass player at the time, and we're watching David Bowie, you know, because Bowie was on there, so we're on the side of the stage. And you can't even really hear it because it's all in ear, you know, and he's playing something acoustic, and there's this guy standing next to us, this kind of taller guy, and I'm like talking to Gail, I'm talking to him a little bit, I go, is this fucking kind of surreal to that guy? And he's like, every night, and right after I said that, he walked out and got behind the drums and started playing. I was just like,
that was the drummer for Bowie.
Apparently that's the drummer for Bowie. But then you walk out and around after watching him for a few songs there. You go out and walk around the front of the house. The immediately that you get around the speakers, it's some of the best sound ever. But
yeah,
those kind of shows, you know what I mean? And then like Rage Against the Machine was on those, and we had played with Rage, and I kind of knew those guys. But watching a soccer stadium like 40,000, 50,000 people, and when Rage plays, you can feel the whole earth move. The whole venue.
Oh,
moves.
I don't.
Those guys get fucking rowdy, dude. Those guys get rowdy.
The crowd was just insane.
Oh my God, I want to meet and shake Tom Morello's hand. I think.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got to see that. I mean, we played shows with him, but I got to see Rage like back in the day, back when it was like, and I think about bands like that were that kind of stuff. That was some of my favorite memories because those are the ones that were scary. You watch them and you're like, so really you have that feeling of like,
damn,
holy shit.
I
only say that as a fan. I say ask you as a fan your favorite one only because like I've been on both ends, obviously, like in varying different local bands and then nationals and stuff like that. I've seen shows from like the Monitor World inside the stage, or you know where you're in holding or whatever, and out in front. And it is weird. It's crazy how quiet oftentimes on the deck is where the Monitor Land is, because those guys, you know, you're either firing that audio right into the specific person that they want it, or you're in ear, so it's a lot quiet. If you're an audience member, it's one thing, but like my favorite, like I won't go and do like I have no desire in ever doing a gig that Avenged is on again. Like I want to watch it. I've done it from the side and the back, and been there when pyros and shit are going off, and fucking ears are still ringing from that probably. But I want as a fan, you know what I mean? And I get to see Rob Zombie that way
you
too.
Want to remember that experience. I have the same thing, and I've said this to a bunch of people, like who. Trying to remember who it was that people wanted to go see, and I was like, I don't want to go see him. I don't want to go see like a version of something now that I have this memory from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rage might have been one of those. Plus, I'm not going to pay $300 to see Rage when I've seen him so many times. And who I really wanted to see was Run the Jewels. I'm a fucking huge Run the Jewels fan. I don't know if you guys know them.
I know the name, but I don't.
They're like a hip hop
music.
group out of Atlanta. Killer Mike, he's like an activist guy, and
cool.
El Pay, who's a producer. Yeah, you might have heard some of their stuff, but yeah, they're amazing.
I always think about that, and I was like, I don't.
They're newer.
There's the ones I refuse. Yeah, I'll refuse to do like worky gigs like that because that's not how I want to. And people are like, what do you mean you want to stand there on the stage and watch your band? I'm like, it's not the same when you've done that, and you're like. I'm a super fan of Avenged, and like I couldn't, and all kinds of everything from just your Bush, and I got to see Rob Zombie that way, which was totally fucking wild because we're standing there right on the side of the stage, and I don't know if you ever got to see a Rob Zombie show.
I heard he's a lot shorter in person.
He's very short. He's a very short guy.
Is he?
In like, so if you know where the barricades are, and you know where the barricade step is at, that sits about 2.5 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
He's standing on that thing, and he's still not clearing the front row of people that are standing on the ground.
Wow,
he's a short dude. Passed
yeah.
him at catering, and he's just like walking by, and I'm looking right over at him like this. I'm like, wow, and every bit of the beard, and like he's like they wanted to grow another member of ZZ Top, and they just ran out of ZZ Top members.
It's like how can something so dark come out of such a small man?
Dude, it's so wild. But what's most impressive about him, and this is why I would always appreciate that scene I got to, or that being part of that production, was because the amount of fucking stage pieces and catamarans and fucking devices and robots and things that he comes out with, it is the most impressive little miniature carnival that you've ever seen, dude. It is so freaking rad. He's just so little, though.
I don't remember ever. I don't think I was standing next to any of them, but they played at Rock Candy. I saw him at Rock Candy.
Oh, really?
White Zombie, not Rob Zombie, but his
White
band,
Zombie,
yeah. And my only recollection of that show was they came out to smoke on the stage, and the smoke never left. And the whole show, it was just flashing lights, and every once in a while you would see her hair, or you'd see him dance to the front of the stage. And so you really had no idea what was going on in this little club.
Fucking Rock Candy. That's so funny.
It was like,
Dude, that's so wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy. I appreciate both sides of it. I appreciate the fan side, and appreciate it. But I feel like in some aspects it's poisoned me a little bit. You go see these shows, you're like, oh,
the same
God.
way. There's and that's why I'm going to go see Metallica, because my buddy Dean, one of my best friends, he and I met at Metallica in 1989 at the Coliseum on the Justice for All tour. Is when I met him. Our wives, we were both married to these women who were best friends in high school. And we met each other at the thing. Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing? And then they both had kids, so we both have kids that are like 2 months apart, who are 32, or older than both of you probably. But like they are like And so he and I became really good friends and best friends. And now Metallica are coming, and he got tickets, and we're gonna go see Metallica. And I kind of don't really want to, because I've seen him a few times. Like I saw him on Lollapalooza, I saw him on the Black Record, and I saw him on the Injustice for All.
You've seen him, by arguably you've seen him on all their best albums.
Yeah, I never got to see Cliff, and that was one of my big. I had this way of like, I was gonna see him, and Cliff died. I was going to see Zeppelin on the Into the Outdoor, their last record. They made the record, and they had done they played Nebworth. And they've done some stuff in Europe, a few shows, and then they had sold tickets that had gone on sale for the East Coast of the United States, and then they were going to come up and do the West Coast. And he fucking died. John Bonham died. And I didn't get to go see him. I had tickets to go see Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, and he died. And I saw him with Brad Gillis.
So you're like the fucking good luck Chuck of fucking going to see fucking, or members of. Get this fucking guy. You actually don't go to see anybody. Actually, at this point, you should just not.
I mean, Metallica's kind of a little overrated, to be honest.
Oof. See now, I would argue that Metallica fans are going to come for you.
I'm more of a Megadeth guy. I like Megadeth more than I do Metallica.
I like Megadeth, and I guess I can see you pitying Dave Mustaine, but he's doing all right. I mean, right now, Dave Mustaine, he'd be all right.
Dave Mustaine's just a better.
Have you heard the story about how they fucking fired him?
Which is
it was just so funny,
petty.
dude. They're just like, yeah, well, you're out. He's like, what?
Yeah.
We're in a hotel room in BF fucking E.
Brooklyn,
and he's like, yeah, well, you're out. I'm like, that's shitty. That's pretty shitty.
They're just shitty people.
That's shitty, dude.
Really?
I think they're just shitty people. If you see how they talk to each other, and it's just like how they dealt with Dave, and I'm just like, dicks, all of you.
Yeah, I mean, like, those guys at the time, though, like they were like I think that James was still like, I think he was still heavy drinking too, like heavy drinking too. So, and he's been pretty open about that in different documentaries about like, you know, straightening himself out. And they were doing nothing for a while, and then they, you know, he had to fucking turn, you know, he had to like get himself straightened out. And then I think he's better. I think he's a lot better than he was.
And the reason why I also say I don't really like him is how I can't say like, oh, I was there. I wasn't even fucking born, but I was looking at like just shit from the past, and I was researching Lane Staley, and the way they dealt with Lane Staley when he dropped out of a certain gig, they made fun of his fucking heroin habit. And I'm just like, dude obviously had an addiction fighting something. I don't think you
And those guys were all addicted to shit.
Yeah, I don't see why they're poking fucking fun at it and making fun of 10,000
Those meatheads, dude. Them fucking meatheads.
If they do that, I have my one Metallica story of beating Metallica. I met Kirk Hammett, and when in 1988, Death Squad, my metal band, we all decided that we were going to move to San Francisco because that's where all the bands were at. Metallica was from there, like Exodus, Testament, like just so many bands from there. Laws Rocket, who we knew would come up, we played shows with. Also this band Heathen that had come up, we played shows with them. And so we went down there we moved down there. We were living in a van, trying to find jobs, and eventually I did find a job. And two of the guys came back right away, and it was just a big disaster. But so we're there for like 4 days, and our first time up on the Haight, first time ever going up there. And I was like 21 or 22 years old, and this guy's come running down the road. He's like running down the street, and he's like, "You two are playing for free at the Embarcadero today, at noon, guys, at noon." It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. We're like walking, whatever, you know.
2 hours away.
Yeah. And you're a psycho, you know, some weird.
Yeah, and you're a fucking crazy person.
More people coming down there saying, "Yeah, you two were playing at the Embarcadero." So we're instead of going up on the Haight, we just got on the bus and went back downtown. And so we go down there, and there's like a flatbed truck and like a RV behind it, and that's it. And there's like maybe 200 people in front of it standing there. So we go up there and we stand up there and like start smoking weed and hanging out and all this. Me and Eric Pugh and Janelle Rodriguez, this girl that I was dating at the time. That's a story.
Shout out to Rodriguez.
Shout out to dysfunctional relationships. And
it's a pattern for you.
Right.
It's a pattern for you.
And but anyway, so then they're smoking a joint. I turn around and look behind me, and there's like 10,000 people there. And if you watch Rattle and Hum, you know the movie U2, and they made a documentary for the Joshua Tree called Rattle and Hum, and one of the performances is that performance I was at, where they literally played in the Embarcadero in front of 10,000 people. He climbed up on a statue and spray painted "Rock and Roll Stops Traffic" on some piece of art and got in trouble, and it was just like a big publicity stunt. And it was just amazing. I was like, I wanted to see U2 so bad my whole life, because I was a fan at the time. And so anyway, after the show's over, we're walking out, Eric and I and Janelle, and we see, what's his name? The singer for Heathen is standing there. We're like, "Hey, dude." And then I look over, right next to him is Kirk Hammett. And I'm all like, "Oh my God, you're Kirk Hammett." Freaking out.
Fangirling.
Yeah, totally fanned out. And this is, I think, after Cliff had died. This is right before they did the Black Album, or before they did the EP. And we're talking to him, we're telling him our story, and we're all excited because we're all like, we moved to San Francisco because we're going to make it big and we're going to do all this stuff. And so we're talking to him, and he's just fucking laughed at us. And he's like, "Let me get this straight. Just so I understand. You guys don't have a place to live? And you don't have really any money?" And I'm like, "No, I got like $12, dude." It's like,
I just smoked six of it.
And he's like, "And you're living in a van, almost like down by the river."
Down by the river.
Yeah, exactly. But that was before that. And he just laughed at us, and so, yeah.
Nice guy, though. Nice guy.
A little deflating. I never liked him since then. That's that whole thing of how one interaction can just really turn you off to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting Kiss destroyed it for me.
Oh, dude, I heard Kiss are all dicks.
Oh, well, so when the last date of the European tour that I did with L7, they opened for Kiss at Finsbury Park in London. 40,000, 50,000 people, big show.
That's a show.
And so they're backstage, and their head of security is a really nice guy and knows Danita. So that was the cool thing, because they gave us these weird little yellow pads that said the production company's name on it, didn't have Kiss or anything on it, and we're all like, we kind of got screwed out of this stuff. And there's this dude that knows Danita, and they're talking. He's like, "Oh, come with me." So I went with him in the production office, and he gave me a big stack. I've still got some of them, of the actual tour laminate, the real nice ones, Kiss reunion, all that stuff, and a bunch of guitar picks. He gave me all this stuff to give to the band, and they didn't care. They're like, we don't want that shit. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's like,
Mine now, motherfucker.
But then Gene and Paul walked up. You know, they came through, and the limos came in. They come out, and they're standing. They walk back there, and they're all standing there. And we were told by, I think that guy. He's like, yeah, don't talk to Kiss. Don't look them in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do. You know the drill.
Yeah.
Wait,
don't,
what's the fucking drill?
Oh, yeah, the drill is you don't look at the artist in the eye. You don't go up and talk to them. It's kind of, I understand it from the perspective of like they're backstage, they're trying to do a job, and if people come up and fuck with them, they have to talk to people all the time.
Yeah.
They have to interact in ways that they don't want. So I get it from that perspective. So what's the first thing I do? I walk right up to Gene Simmons. I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, and I've got like some shit that I really wanted to sign. And I've been a Kiss fan. That's the whole reason I got into music. When I was like 13 years old, I got Kiss Alive 2 right when it came out. And I was like way into them. But there's a fucking, how many 10 million people just like me in the United States? I'm sure at least.
You're not fucking special, homie.
No, you're not special. Exactly. So I walked to him like, what's up? And he's like, looks up, looks over at his buddy and goes, I don't see anything. You see anything? And he walked off.
Fucking asshole.
And I was just like, ah, you dick. And I had been awake, you know, for days at that point. So kind of ruined me.
Fucking guy's a jerk, dude.
Yeah. And then Paul Stanley was standing there too. And I just looked at Paul and I just didn't say nothing. I was just like, can't say nothing. Destroyed. Destroyed.
God.
Well.
So that's the Eric Braiding thing, tying it back around. Is like, be
Fuck
nice
yeah.
To, be
See,
nice to
be fucking
everybody.
nice to people.
Be
Right.
nice to everybody.
Be nice.
Well, fucking Brian.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having you on here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have you come on again, man.
Yeah, it was
Will you
fun.
come on and
Just-
powwow with
just-
us?
Just
Yeah.
chat. Just chat. about
Tell us
music
stories
stuff.
about music, and there's so
appreciate
much
it.
there.
I tell my friends this shit, and they're all like, "Oh God, do really? You gonna tell that story?" You know,
Dude, it's fucking.
you guys.
I
it's fun
appreciate
to
this stuff.
talk
I just
about
suck it up. I love it. I love the
Yeah.
stuff, dude. I
We're
was
just all-
excited,
we're
and you're
just
my
all
bro
besties,
too,
yeah.
and you know we love each other quite
love each-
dearly,
I love
quite
you, yeah.
dearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always
Don't know why you'd
I
wanna
always
hang out with
appreciate
him.
that fucking first call I got from him. It's like I was like, yeah, dude, you busting your
let's do
ass,
some
Randy, is
shit.
fucking valuable. Yeah, that's
Yes,
cool.
Absolutely.
It's fucking totally rad. Remember the Arts Walk days? It's good
Okay.
stuff, man. But
Yeah.
all right, well, Brian,
Yeah.
Mr. Brian Sparhawk here.
Yep.
Thanks
for having
my
me.
co-pilot
Yeah,
Pilots
thanks
over
for
here.
coming.
Yep.
I'm gonna have you on. I'm gonna have you on a more fucking you know,
Yeah.
trivial one where you're gonna be fucking embarrassed. But so
Oh, you're gonna do trivia?
no, I'm just gonna
okay.
embarrass you a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. No, don't embarrass me.
I do appreciate hanging out with us though.
I do. Yeah.
And my
this is a lot of
co-pilot's
fun.
here.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
And then
Absolutely.
we're fucking out. That's it. That's a wrap.